This story begins in May 2022.
I'm only calling you because you had mentioned that you're interested in working with whatever this TEDx event is.
That's my friend Donovan on the phone. We had met at university halls in first year and had also traveled around Scandinavia together, involving 4 a.m. carpool karaoke in Oslo, befriending an Austrian, and me completely losing my voice.
My throat feels like there's a gang of bees sticking in.
But that's a story for another time. We had just been elected presidents of our university's TEDx event, which at this stage was only 6 months away, and neither of us had any idea what we were doing.
Are they only TED or are they also TEDx?
Donovan runs a couple of businesses back in the States, and at this point I had a year or so's conference organizing experience under my belt. But TEDx is a whole different kettle of fish.
This is screaming budget. Budget, budget, budget.
I think the student union will give us some money, and I think we can get sponsors from elsewhere to top it up. We soon realized that TEDx is a non-profit event, and volunteer organizers can't make any money from running it. But that didn't really change anything for us. We wanted to run a good event, we wanted to have great speakers, and our initial hopes were potentially a little ambitious. Potentially, the speakers don't have to be students.
That's what I'm saying, like Brian Cox.
If we got freaking Brian Cox to speak at our event, has he given a TED Talk before? Yeah, he's given a couple, but he'd do another one. As were our ambitious plans with the venue. That theatre seats, I think, 400 people. And also, it's got red seats. It's so TED. Turns out, you need a special and expensive license to have more than 100 people come to your TEDx event. From the outset, we wanted it to be totally free to attend.
So this has to be free to get students to come.
Oh yeah, we'd have to do it for free. I was mostly in charge of logistics and sponsorship, and it was a steep learning curve. I initially thought that TEDx sent around their own in-house camera team to all of their events. That's a question to ask, whether they have like their own in-house team who go around and film the events. They don't. We eventually landed on a date for the event, and we were set on 2 main things. And together we are not only going to run an incredible event, but we are also both going to speak. My main issue is that I haven't actually been around on the planet for very long compared to a lot of TED speakers, and I don't have a huge amount of experience to draw upon for my talk. Some would argue, maybe wait until you do. I've given it about 10 seconds thought. These are my first 2 ideas of titles and taglines. Yes, You Can, which is going to be about the inner workings of the film industry as someone just sort of entering it. And another one is called The Power of Story, which is all about why storytelling is at the core of everything that humans do. Original. Definitely the second one have been done many times before, so I need to find a more unique standpoint and angle to approach them from. Let's fast forward a bit. After lots of Zoom calls and in-person meetings...
Have a good day, guys.
Right. So that was our first team meeting. As a society, we delineated roles, made sure everybody was happy, and got a tentative date penciled in of the 18th of November, which gives us pretty much exactly 6 months to get this to happen and for me to plan my talk. We built up the team, got sponsors involved, organised the logistics, and familiarised ourselves with the TEDx rules and documentation. And among the do's and don'ts, there was one line in particular that stood out to me. Organisers cannot talk at the event they are organising. Looking back, probably for the best. I don't think 2022 me was really ready to get on stage and give a talk. And I'm relieved in hindsight that I didn't, mostly for the audience's sake. It also meant that Donovan and I could focus on the actual running of the event and not getting distracted with scripts and rehearsing lines. We eventually did run a sellout event that November. It was great. We had a fantastic range of speakers, including the first ever Special Olympics GB athlete to give a TEDx talk, which was pretty cool. And that was that. I was proud to have organised the event, and I kind of lost interest in the idea of giving a talk. We passed on the event to the next year's committee. I moved to the States for a year, and then in November of 2024, I saw that they were looking for speakers for their next event. Okay, that's on. It's been a little minute since I've turned this thing on. It was about 4 years ago that I first had a thought that I might give a TEDx talk, but I ended up organising a TEDx event. And if you organise it, then you can't speak at the same event. I'm no longer in a leadership position of that specific TEDx event. But they did invite me to speak. So now it is official. I am giving a TEDx talk, and it's quite soon. The invitation came on around Christmas, and then I heard radio silence for several weeks. 5 days ago, 10th of January, they said, we would like your first draft of your talk in 5 days, please. The event, by the way, is on the 20th of February, so just over a month away. 5 days for a first draft doesn't seem like a huge amount of time, actually. Would have been nice to have known that deadline a little bit sooner. The deadline being now today, and I am nowhere near done with the draft. Also, I just read this book, which is by the head of TED, Chris Anderson. That book says, for an 18-minute talk, it's about 2,500 words. My current first draft is 6,637 words. I've got a little bit of cutting down to do. I've just come off the phone with a professional speaker coach and has done a TEDx talk or two in his past, and is somebody that I highly respect his opinions about this sort of thing. Over the last week or so, I have been refining the talk version that I have as much as I can. I've delivered it to a handful of people, some who are industry professionals, some who are family and friends. A lot of them have said, you can totally present the talk as it is. It could be polished, it could be refined, but as a talk, it works. However, it's 17 minutes long, which is within the parameters for a TEDx talk, but it's too wordy and I'm at risk of losing the audience. So I'm aiming to cut it down by several minutes. I mean, the speaker coach I was just speaking to was said for each minute of the talk, think about an hour of extra rehearsal. So by cutting it down by 5 minutes, I saved myself 5 hours of my life. He just sent me a version of my talk that he's written. This is probably a 6-minute version of the talk, so it's way cut down. There's a version that exists, there's a draft 4.0 that I will start writing now, that is a version between his version and my version that I think is the perfect version of the talk. Once I've got that locked down, I can stop drafting and just start learning, because at that point I'll have just under 3 weeks until the event. I think I'm in that moment right now where the talk has the potential to go from something that is good but could be better to the best it can be. I just need to do that now. I tell you what, as a productivity hack, film yourself working. You just don't get distracted because there's a freaking camera right holding you accountable. I've made a lot of progress, but I've learned that the skeleton version cuts out my entire section, pathways to progress, what can we do about this issue, and puts it into like 6 bullet points. There is a sweet spot here, I just need to find it. It's 2 weeks until the event, and the tickets go live today, and I have just found out that I will be speaking first of the 6 speakers at the event, so no pressure. The talk is basically there. The wording is basically locked in. It's about 14 and a half minutes long, and I am in the midst of learning it. The first half, I'm pretty much there, a little faulty in a few sections. The second half, I really need to focus on that today. I find that it helps moving around, walking around, so I'll go to a park and run lines in a little bit, because also the color green is supposed to help with memorizing. I'm trying to put in an hour or so of rehearsal today, I think. The event is tomorrow. In the last couple of weeks, I have run over the talk, I don't know, probably 100 times. Maybe not quite 100, but it's probably close. I've done it around the house, I've done it on runs, I've done it when I've been cycling in and out, and I've run it through with probably 15 friends and family members. The final version of the script that I'm working from was initially about 13, 14 minutes just reading it through, but after a couple of little tweaks and also just performing it with natural pauses and breaks for emphasis, etc., it's now up to about 17 minutes, which still seems kind of crazy that I've added 3 or 4 minutes of just empty space in there, but it's pretty consistently 17 now, which is slightly longer than I'd like, but it's a little bit late now to start cutting things out. I'm almost sick of the talk at this point. So I'm also slightly looking forward to being done with it. In fact, this probably be a good exercise. I'm gonna run it through right now and see if I can do it without making any mistakes. And I'll time it to see how long it is. So let's, I'll use my mouse as a clicker. Okay. Okay. Oh my goodness. I mean, I messed up a couple times in there and had to start again, but that was verging on 18 minutes, which is pushing it a little bit. It's tomorrow. Okay, but that's useful. Today's the day. The event is this evening at 6 o'clock. I'm the first speaker of 6, so hopefully the audience will be a little bit more fresh. I've already run over the script a couple times this morning, feeling pretty confident about it, although I did almost miss out a whole section and skip ahead during one of the run-throughs, which is slightly concerning at this late stage. But here we are. I've been debating a little bit of what to wear. I think a suit is too formal. This, I think, is comfortable. It looks formal-ish. Hopefully not going to try and spill any lunch on it ahead of time. We've got rehearsals starting at 2:30, and then people start arriving at 6. So, fingers crossed. Just gonna check the cameras.
Now, on to the first speaker of the night, with a geography student who has an avid interest in filmmaking. In fact, he spent some time out on the dazzling sets of Hollywood. But some of the experiences that he witnessed opened his eyes in many ways that you may not be predicting. So, ladies and gentlemen, for the first speaker of the evening, huge round of applause for Aidan Rode.
I am fairly nervous at this point. In my head, I give myself a 50-50 likelihood of things going well or me forgetting a line on stage.
Last summer, I got an opportunity that many filmmakers, aspiring filmmakers, dream about.
Already fumbled the first line. Nice. You can watch the final talk on the official TEDx YouTube channel. I'll link it below.
Let's rewrite the script together. Thank you. Okay, I have literally just come off the stage. Yeah, it went really well, surprisingly well. I sort of was just, as soon as I walked on stage, I was just kind of on autopilot. I wasn't really thinking about what comes next or, what the lines are. I guess when I've tripped up during rehearsals, it's just because my mind's been wandering and getting distracted. But when you're on a stage in front of 100 people, you get laser focused. So I think that really helped. There were a couple of lines that weren't exactly correct, but I don't think anybody noticed. And everything went according to plan. Obviously I haven't seen the video, so hopefully the cameras are recording. And the microphone. The microphone was a little bit essy, some of the sounds kind of were a bit distorted. But basically, as good as I could have hoped for. I'm sort of glad it's over. The other speakers, 5 more speakers on now. So I can just sit back and relax and eat snacks. So there we have it. Please do give the full thing a watch if you get the chance, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Please leave them in the comments. Thank you to the organisers for inviting me to speak, and I'm glad that this time around I had something a little bit more interesting to talk about, which was not the case 3.5 years ago. That's it. Thank you for watching.